Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I am so excited to be sitting down with Donovan Yisrael, a proud Stanford alumnus and an incredible advocate for sustainable transportation. Donovan is not only passionate about biking, but also about making cycling accessible for students at Stanford University. He dedicates his time and energy to repairing bikes that are abandoned on Stanford's campus and then donates them to students, helping them get around campus in a way that is healthy, affordable, and environmentally friendly. His work reflects both community care and a strong commitment to sustainability. I had the distinct honor of working with Donovan for the past year and assisted him with storing abandoned bikes across campus and repairing them for future students to use. Thank you so much for your time, Donovan. I look forward to having a discussion with you about your sustainable transportation efforts at Stanford University. With that being said, let's start the conversation. My first question is, how does bike transportation at Stanford contribute to the university's overall sustainability goals?
Stanford is, if I'm not mistaken, the largest contiguous campus, university campus in the world. So what that means is that you could live almost 2 miles from your department or your place of work. So obviously there's the Marguerite bus service, which is all electric, which is great, but it's not versatile enough for Stanford students to get to the specific place they want to go. And if they're walking, it's just too much walking, honestly. I mean, even for people who love walking. So bikes are the way to go. Obviously, we have electric scooters now and all of that. But and then with Stanford has gotten rid of a lot of the above ground parking or the flat parking, and so now it's all underground, and there's only a few of them. So you have to park a little bit further away than was true. I've been at Stanford for 40 years, so you could park closer before. Now you have to park pretty far away and get to your building and then back. So yes, students are obviously, there's so many forms of transportation now: skateboards, electric skateboards, and electrical devices and stuff. But bicycles are probably the least expensive and less prone to theft, I would argue, than an electric bike, although plenty of bikes get stolen. But yeah, I think bikes are a necessity on campus. And what I'm trying to do is help to make it sustainable. Having them rotting all around campus, locked and rusting and wasted, is not sustainability. And I think it's always been a big problem at Stanford. The police department is trying to abate. They have an abatement program where they try to, warn people that they're going to take them. They cut the locks and take them, but then they have to store them. They have to get rid of them. So there isn't really a great flow on campus of recycling, if I can use that pun. Bikes get stuck, and new ones come, and then they get stolen or stuck, and so it's an ongoing effort to try to figure out how to make the bicycle situation sustainable. But bikes themselves are a big part of the Stanford culture. So
Very well said, Donovan. Thanks for those insights. Donovan, when you were a student at Stanford, was biking the same, was biking also as ubiquitous as it is today? Or, like, how has the modes of transportation changed since you were a student?
absolutely, and you know. There were, well, actually, there also were a lot of gas scooters back in the day. The football players had them, and the people had them. Not so many today, because for good reason. But now it's been replaced by electric stuff. But electrics are way more prevalent actually in the last 10 years than they were ever, and it was just regular bicycles. But yeah, bikes have always been a big part of Stanford campus, and the issue of bikes being abandoned and stolen and vandalized and rusting parts everywhere. It's that's not new to Stanford. That's probably been there since Stanford existed and bicycles were a thing. So
Wow, fascinating, Donovan. Thank you. Donovan, in what ways has the promotion of biking on campus helped reduce the university's carbon footprint?
um, so that's an interesting question. So you know, I don't know that Stanford was ever a place where, well, okay, so Stanford new students can't bring a car to campus. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's still the case. You might want to verify that. But starting your sophomore year, you can have a car, but it does cost money to get a parking pass. Um, I don't think they charge above the parking pass, so, but the thing is, like I said, back in the day, you could. It was still hard, but you could drive your car around and find a parking spot at the Quad, the Oval, and go to class. Nowadays, that's a complete waste of time. There's no parking. So students who have cars, they use them on the weekends and at night to go out or to go to Trader Joe's.
Right.
They don't use them, I hope, to get around campus because there's nowhere to park. So that would be ridiculous. Or you're going to get a ticket because they don't have the type of parking you have, or you're just never going to find a parking spot. So bikes, I don't know that bikes are a response to help Stanford decrease its carbon stuff. It's just a necessity of life. Now, what they have done, of course, is they gave Caltrain passes to staff way back in the day. I don't know how long that's been around, but as a person who lives far enough away, I can get on a train. I can bike to the train at my station here, go a couple stops, and I'm at Stanford. So I think for staff, the train pass is a big deal. Marguerite obviously is very helpful for that and for anybody moving around campus. But bikes themselves are just a necessity on campus. I don't know that they themselves are a reason for sustainability, other than if Stanford staff members are not driving and using a bike to get to campus. Or an electric. The electrics, the train, and the Marguerite, and the bikes, that is going to decrease cars on campus. And Stanford is very conscious of that because they have the general use permit, which I think every year they're trying to find out how many cars are coming and going at the end of the day. I don't know if you see the guys out there.
That's right.
Yeah. So they want to reduce the number of cars coming to campus, and I don't know where they're at with that, especially after COVID. I don't know if that's.
In fact, Donovan, I'm so happy you mentioned that because during my tenure at Stanford, I actually remember seeing getting to Stanford when I exited Page Mill Road and
right.
entering the campus. I would see occasionally in the mornings police officers there, like campus security, and I would see them always writing something on their clipboard. And the first time I saw it, I actually thought that they were writing somebody's license plate or maybe even mine. I was just wondering, because I was scared because it's a school zone, and people tend to either tailgate you or they try to not stop because there are a lot of stop signs and there's lots of at Stanford and roundabouts and everything, but a lot of people try to tailgate and they try to go fast and prove a point. But it's so sad because at one point somebody was tailgating me that morning and I actually thought that the police officer was writing this number.
Yeah.
So
I don't think they're police officers. I think they're hired.
Exactly.
They're
hired,
just lay people.
Correct.
And they're just basically trying to get an idea of how many cars are entering and exiting during rush hour.
Right.
And then the reason they're writing it down is because if you, within a certain amount of time, if you enter and leave within a certain amount of time, they don't include that.
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
you were picking somebody up or something like that. But they want to know, I guess, how many people are actually coming to campus from off campus in a car and parking it all day and then leaving at the end of the day. Something like that. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for the insights, Donovan. And in fact, Donovan, you answered my next question perfectly, so I'll probably skip it. But the question was, how is the university encouraging students and staff to adopt more eco-friendly transportation options like biking? But you've already answered that, so I'll move on. Do you have data on environmental impact of bike usage versus other forms of transportation on Stanford? Like on average, Donovan, in terms of maybe not metrics or anything, but do you think that biking is how often do you think students would bike versus scooter versus skateboard? Do you think it's quantifiable?
I don't know I don't have an answer to that. I mean, I think it's a cost thing. I think the kids who have a little bit more money and are lazy, if I can editorialize, I really think they should be getting exercise at their age. For a person who's older and they're commuting 15 miles, then sure, get an electric, but that's just my opinion. By the way, electrics are also dangerous because the batteries can start fires and they put them in their rooms.
Exactly.
And then they're hard to fix. Anyway, I have a whole editorial on electrics, but if an electric is taking a car off the road, I love it. Someone's just being lazy, get a bike.
Exactly.
But if I can editorialize, if they have a disability, I get that too, and but anyway, so and they do get stolen a lot. But I would just say it's more about convenience. It's about if people have money and they want to zip, get there faster. But I still think bikes are still the most prominent way of just because they're cheaper and easier to maintain and so forth. So, but electrics are everywhere now. So
That's right. That's right. That's fascinating, Donovan. It's really interesting to see the correlation between biking and these new modes of transportation, as biking has been there, as you mentioned, since like Stanford has started, and I'm sure even like in the late 1800s, they had their own bikes.
I assume I don't know when, but definitely early century. I mean,
That's right.
bikes have been around for a while, but I'd be curious to know the history of that. But yeah, they still are, in my opinion, the best lowest cost option, and you get the most benefit. And they, an electric, you're still plugging it into the grid, even if Stanford's all solar, you're still using energy. So these aren't zero energy to produce, and you use oil on the chain and stuff like that, which I hate to use fossil fuels.
Right. Yeah, sometimes it's that caveat. Yeah, as somebody who helped you with the repairs, Donovan, I know exactly like oiling those gears and everything, because these bikes are, and I'm sure in a later question in this interview, Donovan, you'll talk about like how the bikes, these abandoned bikes, rusty, they're really like in bad condition. But then when you were able to repair them, and Donovan, you're like a wizard, by the way. I have to just tell my audience, like you're really like a wizard at repairing them. You're the you manage the whole, like all these abandoned bikes, thousands upon thousands of them every year, and I can't imagine like getting the gear, like getting the parts. Each bike is different in its own right, and you'll need it, you'll need to first diagnose the problem, then repair, and then it's just remarkable what you do, Donovan.
Thanks.
I just wanted to say.
Well, we store, so I don't know if it's 1,000, but I tell people I distribute at least 100 bikes a year.
Wow.
And it's with the help of other people. I don't fix all of those myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm the only person I think that's fixing bikes all year round, other than some community members who sometimes donate bikes that they fix all year round. But yeah, and so when I get a bike that I can't fix or that it's not worth it, I strip the parts off, and you'll see in my crazy backyard, half the job is sorting parts, because you got to take the parts off and then recycle the rest of the bike, and then now you got to take each of those parts and put them into buckets and places, so that I can have access to them when I need them. But it's really like a puzzle. If anybody does the New York Times or the Wordle, putting together a bike is really just a puzzle, and it's really satisfying when you are looking for a specific part and you find that part and you put it on and it works, because a lot of them are interchangeable, not completely, of course, but there's interchangeability, and so it's really a fun puzzle to put together bikes. Yeah.
That's amazing, Donovan. How long have you been repairing bikes, and not just at Stanford, but even in your personal life?
Yeah. So by the way, yesterday was the 40th anniversary of me arriving at Stanford as a freshman.
Wow! Congratulations, Donovan.
Yeah, September 21st. So I've been here 40 years and a day.
Oh my God.
But I do remember finding abandoned bikes around my house in 1987 and 86, and I remember being in my room repairing bikes, just the basics, buying parts from the shack. It was a bike shack before the bike shop was like a shack on
Tressiter.
No, it was where Munger. It's where
Munger
is.
is. Oh.
Yeah. That little street that has some buildings by the Haas Center. It was there. Anyway,
Right.
so I used to buy parts there and then repair them and give them to friends, and then they'd take them to the train station and immediately they'd get stolen. So I've been working on bikes since I was a little bit when I was a kid, and then later at Stanford. But no, I'm a skater. I'm a hockey player, inline hockey, inline skating, ice hockey. So doing that for decades, and then with getting older, and bikes are just more efficient in transporting you than skating because of the gears and stuff. I started picking it up. I think around COVID, I started to find bikes and start to fix them up a little bit. And then I don't actually know when it started full go, but I want to say 2022, 21, 22, I started to dabble in it, and full go 23 and 24, and now 25, giving away like 100 bikes a year, and counting. So yeah, it's been an interesting process, and then getting to meet you and your colleagues at when you were with R&DE, and then the pods, having a place to store them. So it's really been a community effort, along with the Stanford Parents Club and the Stanford Student Group, the Stanford Bike Project. But yeah, and then off-campus partners from the Bike Exchange and volunteers and stuff. So it's really been a group project, and it's fun, and we're trying to build a movement of bike mechanics that want to help to save people money, you know and create a more sustainable atmosphere where we can actually turn these bikes around and not just have them end up in the recycle bin.
That's truly admirable, Donovan. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Donovan, what efforts are in place to recycle or sustainably dispose of bikes or bike parts that are no longer in use?
So, there's probably a lot of answers to that, but there's the Recycle Center at Stanford, which is open most days 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, even on the weekends. They have just a community where you can walk in and recycle your plastics and your paper and your bottles and everything. They have a bin for scrap metal, so I use that to dispose of to recycle the metal, any metal parts. So I keep a little bucket of metal parts, and I try to take as much plastic off of it as possible, because as you know, mixed waste is the hardest when it's mixed. So I try to strip off, to the extent that I can, the plastic parts, and then I throw it in the metal, and then I dump it there on my way to work. So the community can use that to get rid of their cardboard, their plastics, their containers, even a little bit of e-waste, just a small e-waste. But I love that place, and I actually will get parts out of there too, because the Stanford Bike Shop, I told them many times, give me your old stuff. They don't do it, so I end up going through their trash and recycle seats and baskets and wheels and stuff that they're not using, locks even. So, but yeah, the scrap metal bin is kind of my friend over there.
That's amazing, Donovan. That's really cool. Are you able to use some of the metals that you find in the scrap bins to other bikes?
Absolutely. A lot of I'm a bottom feeder when it comes to bikes. So the the Palo Alto Bike Shop maybe is at the top, and then all the other bike shops and Bike Exchange and Good Karma and Live in Peace are the nonprofits, right? But they use new parts. My ethos is to not buy new as much as possible.
Right.
So a lot of it is salvaging usable parts, and sorting them so that I have them at the ready. But I take pride in fixing a bike and never having to go to a bike shop to buy any parts or order anything. Now we do have to order some parts because it's just easier for the bike repair day.
Right.
And I did purchase some for our last bike repair day. But in general, if I can repair a whole bike from used parts from top to bottom, it's just so satisfying. Because it's a metal part. It still works.
Exactly.
It's if I can find the right piece, the right fit.
Exactly.
And it takes more time. I'm also literally some of the plastic parts. This one particular piece is like crunchy potato chips, except it's plastic pollution. And I chip those out, and I pick them up with my fingernails and put them into Ziploc bags and put those in the trash, because that's just going to end up being powdered plastic pollution all over our campus.
Exactly.
So I move at a very slow pace when I fix a bike, but it's really about trying to take as much of the trash out of the environment as I put a bike together. Now I still have to use a little bit of fossil fuels, WD-40 and stuff like that, to get the bike running. And there's plastic in the stuff that we use. The grips are rubber, and the tires are rubber and stuff, which is plastic basically.
Right.
But what are you gonna do? You know,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
It's, you just kind of pick and choose. It is a puzzle, like you
it's
mentioned,
a
Donovan,
puzzle.
fixing these bikes and finding the parts. But it's great that you really try to reuse all these metals, especially Donovan. That's
Oh
wonderful.
yeah, I'm the MacGyver of this. That if you remember the show MacGyver, where
MacGyver.
he
Yes.
would like defuse a bomb with a piece of chewing gum and a paper clip. I'm that guy. You should see some of the ways in which I reuse things. I even take the U locks that are unopened,
Uh-huh.
and I'll sit there and go through
Oh,
9,999 clicks until it opens. Yeah,
that's amazing.
because I refuse to throw. A U lock is worth somewhere around 35 to 55 to $70,
Exactly.
and so but to us they're trash, and so
Exactly.
I refuse. So what I do takes a little more time,
Right.
but it's fun for me, and so I do that, and I try to save as much as I can.
That's amazing,
Yeah,
Donovan. Thank you for sharing.
yeah, yeah.
uh, Donovan, how does Stanford's bike repair program promote sustainability by extending the lifespan of bikes? Not just the repairing the parts, but also like the donating parts, especially because students like come and go from Stanford every 4 to 5 years or so. They'll like come and then they'll graduate. But then what happens to those bikes? How can we extend the lifespan of them if they inevitably abandon them on campus by the time they graduate?
Well, that's the big question, right? Is um, people come in gung ho and they have a little money, so they buy a new bike or a used bike.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't get stolen, it serves them for a year or 5 years, and then sometimes they're in a rush to get on an airplane, and so
Right.
they don't
Oh,
even take a minute to just unlock the bike. They could unlock the bike,
exactly.
give away the lock, give away the bike,
Right.
put it, sell it to a student, give it to a student, but they don't even bother. Or maybe they left in duress. I don't know. Maybe they never finished, or I don't know.
Right.
But
Right.
thousands and thousands of bikes are sitting there locked,
Exactly.
rusting, and that's the purview of the police department to take care of those, to
I
cut
see.
those, to warn students and then cut them.
Correct.
You and I, we've gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bikes. These are the ones in the bushes. They're
Correct.
flat tires. They're obviously abandoned. I don't know if I have an answer to your question, but there is no. First of all, we're not an official program. I'm just Donovan, and I happen to know you, and you and Haley happen to give me a key to some pods. So I'm just a guy, and the student group is official. The parents club is official. R&D is official. I'm just a guy in the community that cares. So we're just cobbling this thing together, MacGyvering the whole program. But yeah, there isn't a process, and that's where uh, there is a research project at Stanford Sustainability, that academic research that you've seen. They do those workshops. We
Right.
saw them do those speeches.
Right.
I wish one of their interns would take on the bike situation
Me too.
and prototype and iterate and use design thinking to kind of, how can we do this better?
Exactly.
Maybe we incentivize students and say, we'll give you $25
Exactly.
if you donate your bike, or something,
Exactly.
a Starbucks card or
Right.
something.
Right.
But I don't know. I just don't know. And thanks to residential dining, we actually have storage for now. But with budget cuts, I don't know if they'll decide to take away the pods,
Right.
and then and stop the whole first gen low income program, where they can get refrigerators and microwaves and clothes and stuff. So I don't know. I don't. For now, I'm just existing because of the benefit of people, the grace of God, and of people at R&D. But yeah, there's many moving parts. I would say, if you're asking, storage is a major issue, and labor. We can figure out probably everything else. Parts is not that much money, but really it's storage and labor. Storage for the salvaged bikes,
Right.
storage for the bikes even once they're repaired until we give them away, and the labor to get them from salvage to storage.
Exactly.
The supply of bikes is unlimited.
Exactly.
That's not our problem.
That's right.
It's and parts are cheap-ish.
Exactly.
It's really labor and storage. Those are the two pieces. but I hope a Stanford student can be inspired, or one of your colleagues can be inspired to solve our bike flow problem.
Correct.
The triangle of recycles not being completed with bikes.
Oh no.
They're getting stuck. They're getting
I see.
stuck
Donovan,
or
do you
trashed.
think that a solution would be to have more donate? Like I know there's the Fly Drive, the first generation low income drive, like, but that's only once or twice a year. Do you think there should be more like donation events, like, or more
Well,
bike
see,
repair days?
that's a distribution event.
I see.
Distribution takes time, and the way I do it with a lot of education, it does take time, but that's not the problem.
Understood.
Yeah,
Understood.
giving away, it's like money. Giving away money is not a problem, although that
That's
is some
right.
people's jobs. But getting it in the first place. So again, the issue is not distribution. The issue is storage and labor.
Right.
Yeah, skilled labor, right? Skilled labor and storage. Those are the two.
I see.
Yeah, and the whole lock thing. So, the police department having to unlock, like cut the locks and that. But that's yeah. We
Yeah.
need the bikes are getting stuck in the
Exactly.
process. We need a process to go. I'm leaving campus. I have a bike that either is not working or working.
Right.
How can I get that to people and the lock, but unlock it and get it to us?
Exactly.
And your former employer was doing that pretty well with the alpaca tags,
Right.
all cute name, by the way. I'll pack it, and that worked. But I mean, it's what did you get? Maybe 50 bikes or something, right?
Exactly. It's not that much.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, totally. In the grand scheme of things, Stanford has like such a like tens of thousands of students. And yes, every year, like especially during move outs, like especially in the month of June, I'll tell you, Donovan, I was driving around the whole campus because that's when students were like leaving the campus. They had graduated or they were like leaving for the summer. And the campus was like just flooded with all of these bulky items, not just bikes, but mattresses, microwaves, mini fridges, and so on and so forth. And there's a whole process, Donovan, I'll tell you, as a waste specialist at Stanford, like the e-waste, the bike waste, all these different types of hazardous waste. There was even liquid and paint waste. There's a lot of construction work that goes on. Each type of waste is differently managed, and
Yes.
anytime I had a bike or transportation related issue, Donovan, especially in terms of bikes, I would always reach out to you because I knew that you would at least know who to contact, or
Right.
who to like
Right.
schedule these bike events, like with the parents club, with Kim, for example.
Right.
We would organize these with Kim, we would organize these
Kim Freitas,
Kim
right, yeah.
Freitas,
Yeah,
correct,
yeah, yeah.
correct. And
Yeah.
it's great too, Donovan. Speaking of Kim, I know she's a parent and she's also a volunteer, and the whole parents club are all volunteers. But I think it's great. Even you, Donovan, it may not be an official title or anything but it's your hobby, your interest that you do
Yes,
since a young age.
yes,
I think
yes.
it's really, really admirable, Donovan.
Yeah, we all have to do our part, right? We have to do our part, and
That's
this is
right.
something I'm excited about. Some people might be working with food and sustainability, or
Exactly.
with the rivers, cleaning up the rivers. I used to jump in the creek here and clean
Oh
up the
my
creeks,
God.
but this is it's something I know how to do, and I have the capacity for, and so we all have to we have to find each our niche and
Yes.
do our part and recycle textiles or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Right? So
Exactly. I agree, Donovan. I'm so happy we think so alike as waste, like enthusiasts. It's wonderful, Donovan. Thank you so much for the insights.
yeah.
Donovan, Donovan, what strategies are in place to make bike commuting accessible and sustainable for all students and staff?
So to make it, by the way, do you mind
Oh,
that this
that,
noise?
that's
Yeah,
fine,
yeah,
Donovan.
yeah,
No
yeah,
worries.
yeah.
It's all good.
So your question again is to make it sustainable.
Correct. Like, what strategies or incentives are in place that at Stanford that make bike commuting accessible and sustainable for all students at Stanford, like, especially the
Yeah.
low income and because I know Stanford is very affluent, Donovan. And
Yeah.
a lot of students can afford the bikes, but there are also those first generation low income students.
Well, parking and transportation is obviously always trying to incentivize
Right.
getting to Stanford not in a car, right? That's
Right.
They have raffles, and they do those profiles, and they have the bike to work days,
Right.
which I always miss because they're always at the wrong time and day. But they'll set up a stand on Palm Drive and give out kind bars and swag and stuff to people who commute to work. They do have the free train passes for now, which I love. So if you live more than one stop away, every Stanford staff. I'm not sure about the medical side. I'm not sure, but theoretically, all Stanford staff members get a free train pass, which you can use on the weekend. You can use any time. It's such a great deal.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I only use it 1 or 2 stops, but it's still it's a lot. I think that kind of thing. I don't know what else. All of their programs are trying to get us out of our cars. Okay?
Right.
But in regards to the the fly drive and all that. So that comes out of there's an office called FLISC, which is the First Generation Low Income Student Services Center, I think is called, Student Support Center. And they have a student group called FLIP, which is the student version of it. And they put on the fly drive once a year to give away home items, microwave ovens, fridges, and bikes and other things. So that's a distribution event, that's the reason why the bike thing started. But yeah, they're more trying to recycle goods and save money for those first-gen low-income students, which is what I'm trying to do too. But remember, bicycling at Stanford is a necessity. Like, it's not, transportation is a necessity, and bicycling is actually the cheapest low-cost way for a person to do that. So I don't know if Stanford's incentivizing it any more than it needs to be. It's just necessity. But we are trying to save money for those first-gen low-income students. And my main goal is to keep as many bikes to decrease the amount of crappy bikes that are being bought from Walmart and Target.
Right.
Or any bikes, brand new. I'm trying to decrease the demand for bikes ever so slightly, and save money for the people who would otherwise buy a bike anywhere else.
Donovan, do you think Stanford's new policy for incentivizing like students to bike, or even staff, would be to only have students buy from either the bike shop or from the bike yard, that's the DPS? Do you think instead of having all these external, like, students buying bikes from Walmart or just randomly, like, have it more internalized? Do you think they buy their bikes, from the book? Would that be a better solution?
So what I would, I would love for one of these smart Stanford students to take this on, or yourself is getting this degree, because there's a lot of moving parts. But there should be a way. No, so the problem with the DPS bikes, the Department of Public Safety bikes, is that they sell them for $40, but they don't let you ride them, and it's my understanding, and they're not serviced. So you could get a bike for $40, you take it home, and it's like it needs every bike repair is expensive. So
right.
Now it needs $75, $125 worth of work. So now you just bought a $175 bike, which is fine. That's a good price. But so we need a system where people can have access to, used bikes, but also have access to low-cost repairs. The bike shop is a for-profit business. They need to make money. Their cheapest new bike, by the way, the one they were advertising anyway, was $520. So their cheapest new bike, and it's a no brand name, decent bike, but $520. You can get it cheaper, maybe. I have people in the community that can get it a little cheaper. But to answer your question, I don't know what the system looks like. I mean, if it was easy, we would have solved it by now. But we need to have multiple things in place. We need to have, like I said, I already said this, but we need to have storage for the bikes, whether they're salvaged or repaired.
Right.
We need to have labor to get them to be repaired at a decent rate if we're paying for it, or if it's free volunteer work. But we also, we need to have a system for people to turn in bikes.
Yes.
So I was as you were talking, I was thinking, maybe, because by the way, if you pay people to bring bikes, they're just going to grab a crappy bike and get paid. So which wouldn't be a bad service, by the way, but
right.
I would say you get $25 if you hand in a bike that's your bike, and it with a lock or something like that. Right. So then they have to find a usable lock.
Right.
So it has to, and they cost $35, so they would not buy one. So you hand in a bike with a usable lock, we'll give you a Starbucks gift card or something, or a Amazon card or whatever. I don't like Amazon, but whatever. So anyway, somebody needs to innovate a system to keep the flow going. You know, we have aluminum cans, right? And there's some people cruising the neighborhoods, grabbing the aluminum cans and taking them to your former employer on
Yes.
Terrabella here in
Yes.
Mountain View,
Yes.
because aluminum is still valuable.
That's right.
And so guess what? Aluminum cans, wherever they are in the world, they get recycled because somebody like me or somebody else, I used to do that, is gonna make sure that that aluminum can gets there. What if we had a situation where any bike with all of its parts, you know, is worth something? It's a deposit.
Exactly.
So students pay a deposit on their bike. To have a bike on campus, you pay a fee of $25, and you get it back when you turn in a usable bike.
Right.
It doesn't have to be perfect, but a bike with all its wheels and a lock, you get $30 or something. That would be interesting. I don't know what that looks like, but I think if you did that, more students would make sure to take 15 minutes to turn in their bike rather than, and we got to make it easier for them. Like, you know, call us, we'll come get it, or tag it, take a picture, we'll come get it, give us the code, keep it locked. See, I love this idea. Keep it locked, give us the code, hide the key, we'll come get it. And you get $25 sent to you in the mail. Something like that. That could be cool. Just like aluminum cans.
Exactly.
It's not a lot of money, but people do it because
Exactly.
you get a truckload and you get $100 worth of aluminum cans.
Exactly.
And that's something to somebody. So
That's right. That's right. That's a great solution, Donovan. Honestly, it's really good, and I think we need more of those like outs. It's a really unique solution, Donovan, and I think we need more thinking like that. More unique ideas because right now what's happening, Donovan, at Stanford with all the you're right. There's always a surplus of these abandoned bikes and junky bikes, and I think honestly, Donovan, they like from the look of it, some of them have been so badly beaten up. Especially at Casper. I know Casper was one of the hot spots. Anytime I would go there, I would see bikes like that were just beaten up and I just would think to myself, this bike had to be there for at least maybe well over a year, if not more, and
some of the bikes I'm picking up, they have a tag that says this registration expires in 2017. So if the expiration just expires in 17, let's say it was good for 4 years, so that bike was a 2013 bike or something like that. So
my God.
so yeah, no, easily these bikes have been there for some of them have been there for multiple years,
Right,
and
right.
but some of them are still good. I mean,
Yes,
obviously the
all-
rubber
all-
parts, you have to replace them.
Exactly, they'll
But
erode,
some of them, if all the parts are in place and I have parts here, I can put them together. Others are
Exactly.
harder, and I actually need to be better about stripping and recycling because my backyard, you'll get pictures later of my backyard, and it's a disaster. So some of them aren't savable, but because if it's me, I take it as a challenge. If somebody says a bike is unrepairable, I take it as a challenge. By the way, I should mention that there are some things I can't do, getting into ball bearings and getting into certain areas of the bike that are more technical, hubs and ball bearings and stuff. I take those to my local bike shop. I have a friend over there, Rex Bikes, RECSBIKES.com, and he does some of the more expensive work, cheaper, gives to me at a deal, and then the Stanford Parents Club sometimes pays for some of it. So we are getting some support in that, but yeah, sometimes I have to just strip the bike and toss it because it's just not worth the time, sadly. And it pains me to do that, but hopefully the metal will go to
right.
be recycled and made into buildings, if not bombs and airplanes.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, you can always reuse these parts,
Yeah,
I
because
think-
it's metal. It's either aluminum
Exactly.
or steel,
exactly.
right? So, yeah.
Donovan, my bike at home, I have a mountain bike, but it's actually made out of carbon fiber.
Oh, beautiful! That's a
and it's
fancy
very
one.
light. Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
fancy one. Yeah.
In fact, when I bought when I went to the bike store, Donovan, this was back when I used to bike, like maybe in middle school and early high
It's
school.
never too late to
It's
keep
not
biking.
exactly. I used to do it like as my main motive, because that was before I got my license. So I'll tell you, Donovan, before I got my driver's license, I would bike, bike to
Yes,
school, bike
yes,
everywhere.
yes.
And then when I went to University of Toronto in Canada, I couldn't.
Beautiful.
But Donovan, my
It's too
campus,
snowy
it's
there.
too
Yeah.
snowy. But I'll tell you, speaking of Canada, Donovan, I'll tell you the infrastructure, the road infrastructure, is much safer in
Oh,
terms of like
good.
the bike lanes.
Oh, good, good,
That's
good.
one of the biggest like concerns I know parents have about like like infrastructure about like bike, but
Yeah.
it's safe here.
Palo Alto is, well, El Camino Real, they just put up the guarded lanes.
Yes, yes.
So we're in a bike mecca in regards to that stuff. I
Very
mean,
good.
the infrastructure is better for bikes than most of the world for
Very
cars, so here.
Yes,
So
yes,
we're
exactly.
blessed in this place. Yeah.
Definitely,
At least in this local area. I don't know about all of the Bay Area,
That's
but I
fine.
think it's getting better.
It
yeah.
is. It is. Yes. Yes. I think. Yeah. These different modes. I hate to say, like. I hate that the fact that most of the people, like most of the primary modes of transportation, especially in like the western parts of the U.S. and Canada and everything, it's actually people driving because it's just too much open road.
Yes, yes.
But
And our public transit systems don't go hardly anywhere, so
exactly.
why would you use it, right?
Exactly. But the thing is, like, for locally, like, if you go to your local supermarket or just buying groceries, for example, and there's a shop right next, you can always walk or bike. I
That's
always
right.
also try to do that alternative. I know, Donovan, you had also told me about, like,
Yeah.
I mean, once a week or something, you were telling me you and your family go biking.
Yeah, yeah, we'll go to the farmer's market. My wife has a big basket cooler thing on the back of hers, so she goes to the grocery store, goes to Target. So yeah, and I'd love to encourage you and other people
That's
to
right.
put a basket on your bike and instead of driving to Safeway or driving to the farmer's market or driving to the library, whatever, just get in the habit of jumping on your bike and again find the safest routes. I like
Right.
to take the back roads where there's not a lot of cars.
Exactly.
But most of the cities in this area have decent bike lanes now, and you got to be careful. But yeah, it's a great lifestyle. You run into people. You don't have to worry about finding parking.
Yes.
See, that's what I love about a bike. I don't care if I'm going to the Town and Country Mall where Trader Joe's is next to Stanford. There, and let's say it's lunchtime and Palo Alto High School kids are everywhere and there's cars everywhere. I roll up and just park my bike and I'm at my destination. So there are tremendous benefits for not having to look for parking, which is such a pain, sometimes.
God, that's amazing, Donovan. Really nice, Donovan. In these public communal areas, when you were parking your bike, like, have you ever encountered like a no bike sign? Like, has there ever been like an issue with parking or like no pedestrian or like if or something like that or?
Well, so there are areas where you're supposed to walk your bike, and whether people do that or not is another question. There are areas on campus where you're not supposed to, ride your bike or skateboard or any of that. And so, yeah, we usually most places now have bike racks everywhere. Okay, either on the side of the road or in next to the coffee shop or whatever. So that shouldn't be a problem. I think it's what was I going to say? Trying to think of it. Yeah, most of the time they allow you to have your bike there, so that's not a problem. I can't remember what I was going to say.
That's amazing, Donovan. That's right. Yes, yes, bikes are accessible and like the road infrastructures are getting safer and yes, I think it's great that people are becoming more and more incentivized to bike, because I think our generation, Donovan, especially this young generation, like we have an like I think we're the first generation I have to say that like has had this environmental crises as an issue,
Yes.
like we were like of course people in your generation and even older, Donovan, like they're starting to like understand, but when you were growing up, Donovan, I mean it was more rare to say like how you were repairing your bikes in your own room. I honestly,
Yeah.
Donovan, you might have been just like one of the very few people in society would
Yeah, that
do
was
it,
more just
just as a
growing up
hobby.
poor and not having a lot of money and wanting to be able to provide things that you couldn't afford to buy.
Right.
But yeah, no. I feel bad as someone from the older generation leaving the world as it is to the younger generation. So my apologies. But yeah, no. I think there is that awareness now, and I hope. And it's more convenient. You're going to watch the Warriors play in San Francisco. It's just more
Exactly.
convenient to get on a train and walk to this and get the vibe and not sit and park and now that they've closed off a lot of the downtown areas like Castro Street, it's like, yeah, just either park your car on the side and walk or just walk there in general or get on your bike and go there.
Exactly.
You feel it's more fun, it's more relaxed, and so yeah, I'm really I understand people love their cars, the cocoon, the air conditioning, the stereo. They feel safer somehow or more protected or whatever. But I think your life will your quality of life will just go up if you're out in community, out in the sunshine, out there breathing the fresh air and listening to the birds chirping and stuff.
Exactly.
Not just in your steel box. So.
Very well said, Donovan. Thank you so much for sharing those insights.
Yeah.
um, Donovan, I'm not sure if you're aware of the like the zero waste like policy plan of Stanford. Like I think by
Uh-huh.
2030 or 2035, they're trying to get like 85-90% zero waste. Do you by any chance know how much like biking, like reusing these bikes and things? Do you have an estimate of how much like reduction in or how much progress to that zero waste goal by 2035 Stanford will meet by bike repairs itself?
Yeah, I can't give you any hard numbers, but again, I not to be cynical or pessimistic, but I don't see much progress. I mean, I'm doing what I can, one bike at a time,
Right.
and I don't have a problem with that. Like, I'm not a big fan of scalability. Just if you're asking, scalability is how we got here in the first place, right? So
Exactly.
it was scaling. Oh, let's make 1 billion of these widgets, and now they're lying in the dumps everywhere in the world. So I have no problem fixing one bike at a time, but yeah, thousands of students just arrived on campus, and every one of them needs a bike or it's for some form of transportation. So what's our plan? It's like flat screen TVs. Like, what's our
Right.
plan? Everybody has a flat screen TV or three. What's our plan for when those are no longer here? Or mattresses, right?
Right.
This is our society. So I don't think there is a plan. I think it's haphazard. It's catch as catch can. We're just cobbling this thing together. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. The police department is doing their best to abate and get those bikes, and they are distributing them at $40 each, which is fine. And they are giving some of them to us now, right? We've gotten some from them,
Right.
but we don't have a place to store them. So
Exactly.
it's like we can't even get them from them because we don't have a place to put them. They have storage, which then they had to have those trucks come and the trucks came now. And again, I don't know whether those bikes are going. They're probably just going to the recycle bin, to the metal recycle areas. But maybe somebody downstream is recycling the bikes too. I don't know. But yeah, there's Bike Karma. There's Bike Exchange. There's these local community people. They're doing their best. But yeah, I think in a capitalist society we just have too much stuff.
Yes.
And so how do IKEA can produce the furniture faster than any of us can use it or dispose of it. So these are the big questions of our day is in a world of consumption, how do we recycle and reuse? It's a lot of work. But I'm committed to doing what I can, and every bite counts, but when you have a campus full of 10,000 staff and well, forget about the staff, even just the students, 17,000 students. If everyone has a vehicle and some leave every year and some come every year, that's thousands and thousands of increased bikes every year. So how do you manage that inflow and outflow? I don't know. I don't have an answer. So
Incredible, Donovan. That's really insightful. Thank you for sharing. Donovan, we're just down to our last three questions now. Donovan, how does Stanford measure the environmental benefits resulting from increased bike usage on campus? Do you know how they like measure it, like quantify it by any
yeah,
chance? Do they?
a lot of your questions around metrics and numbers, I would definitely have you look up somebody at Stanford Sustainability.
Sure.
And I have some contacts there because they're the people who are actually tracking those numbers and trying to hit those
Right.
marks. Not our D&D sustainability, but the actual Stanford sustainability
Right.
people.
Right.
So I know Julie Muir there.
Julie, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. She's I used to work with her a long time ago when she was at the recycling center. So Julie and her team, and Malika and some of the other younger folks, I think that's part of their job is to
Got it.
kind of understand what the research says, set a goal, and then try to hit that goal with their program. So I would send you to them to do that. But
Sounds
I
great.
don't have any numbers.
Not a
on
problem, Donovan. Thank you.
I'm just the guy on the ground trying to repair a bike.
That's right, Donovan. Donovan, do you know Like, what challenges does the university face in maintaining a sustainable bike program, and how are they addressed? Like, what are the biggest challenges in like promoting bike like usage, or even e-scooters or anything electric?
Well, as I said, the big challenge with the e-scooters is the speed, and they're quiet. So people have gotten really injured because they're very fast and they're very quiet. And then the other thing is that storage batteries do burn, and they burn really like blow torches. So we haven't had a big fire. We've had fires on campus. David from R&D told me that we've had fires, but we haven't had any casualties yet, or any injuries that I know of, or any buildings burning down. But it's only a matter of time till one of these batteries catches fire in the middle of the night or whatever. Students are not supposed to put them in their dorm rooms, but they do, because they get stolen. So it's a catch-22 for them. They have this expensive item.
Right.
They leave it outside. It might get vandalized or stolen, and if they put it in their room, they could burn down the building. So it's so I'm not a big fan of electrics, and they're not getting any exercise. So let me just go on the record as saying I'm not a big
Right.
fan. But those are major issues for residential dining enterprises, and also the university. Um, but yeah, I don't think we've made much progress in terms of creating a more sustainable situation there. I think the answer to your question is that it isn't the biggest priority for the university.
Right.
There's a lot of bigger problems, and this is just. But in terms of waste, arguably, this is the most visual form of waste, right? Because we don't see trash too much. I mean, it's a pretty clean campus, not like some of the cities I've visited where I've picked up trash. But the trash that you see lying around is abandoned bikes, and it clogs up the places where kids should be locking their bikes. And then this is what I was going to tell you earlier. Then they start locking bikes on handrails, on stairwells, and in ramps where people in wheelchairs are supposed to be using them.
Right.
So, and I had to lecture a bunch of students, lovingly lecture a bunch of Stanford students the other day after an orientation event about, please don't lock your bike on handrails, on stairwells, and or ramps. And but that's a lot of that's because they'll say, well, there's no available uh, racks. Well, because the racks are filled with junk bikes, abandoned bikes.
Exactly.
So that's, yeah, I would say it's the most visual form of and takes up the most space, right? If you think about trash sitting there, this is trash sitting there.
Exactly.
And I would love to have that trash, and love to have access to be able to fix all of that or recycle it. But
Right.
so yeah, it is a big issue for the campus, and I'm not sure when it's going to rise to the level of them putting some effort towards it. They just installed all those new package lockers, so they are trying to get more trucks off of the campus. So that's a big development. Getting the trucks to pick up and deliver to Newark, so that one truck comes to campus each day, offloads the packages, and goes back. That's the future. So that's great news. But with bikes, they have to put some resources behind it
Oh my god.
to and maybe, I'm thinking maybe every bike has a digital fingerprint,
Right.
and then we're able to hit that person and say, hey, are you still riding this bike? Say yes to this text. If yes, then that's fine. If no, we're going to remove it in a week,
Yes.
and then have somebody continue removing bikes. And then I don't know. I'm also thinking about locks with combination codes, and then a person, even if they move to Switzerland,
Right.
they could say to the person, yes, I'm no longer using that bike, and here's the code,
Yes.
so they could just remove it.
Exactly. That's
See,
actually a great idea,
I would
Donovan.
love that.
In fact, when you were talking about the barcodes, I'm really happy you brought that up because, you can honestly tag a bike. Every bike on Stanford's campus, whether they're abandoned or at least for the incoming students now, like let's say the class of whatever, this 20 to 30 or something, 20, 29. Donovan, for that class, for example, all the incoming bikes, for example, and for later classes as well, each bike should just have a tag on it,
Yes.
with the contact information of the student.
Yes.
And then you're
Yes.
right, Donovan.
Yes.
If it's
Yes.
locked or anything, you can communicate with the student, like what's the
Yes.
bike lock
Like,
and
hi, this is Susie from the Stanford Police Department.
exactly.
Can we, are you still riding this bike? Yes or no? And
Exactly.
then, can we, anyway, I love,
That's a
we,
great
we,
idea,
we do have the
actually.
capacity to do a lot of
Yes.
this stuff.
And
And
Donovan, that's one of the reasons why I was asking my previous question earlier in the interview about, like, why don't we have Stanford students just buy bikes on the campus from the bike shop, or like just think, because if you can do that, then you can just put the barcodes on them.
yeah, I mean, you could, arguably you could give them a barcode anytime.
Right,
As
right,
long as it's on a permanent sticker that can be read.
right,
Um,
right. But
Again, now you get into issues about tracking, like the
no,
Stanford students
exactly,
are going to say, "Are you tracking me?
exactly.
Are
Yes,
you
that's
like
true.
following
That is
me? And
true.
are you surveilling me?" So that gets to be weird. But yeah, if there was a way to hide, a nice tag, like a scan code that's not a Apple,
Right,
tracker,
right.
but an actual just a scan code. They have a machine. They go, okay, oh yeah, that's Jim's bike. Let's contact him. I don't know.
Right.
I wish there was a way to do
Yeah.
that, and that way students, yeah, can we can track the bikes and make sure they, or if they get lost on campus too, sometimes a bike will be stolen and just dropped on the other side of campus now.
Yes.
And I'll find a bike and I'm like, that could have been a stolen bike, but the student's never going to find it over at the medical school. So now if it has a code, we can actually say, hey, we found this bike on campus unlocked. Is it do you want it? And
Right.
can we bring it back to you, or can you come get it or something?
Exactly, Donovan.
I
It's
don't
a, it's a great thing. Honestly, Donovan, I think it's a great idea for sure. And I'm happy
Yeah.
you shared it.
Yeah, and
Donovan-
maybe there's a whole department of bikes on campus.
exactly.
That's if we can trust that person.
Mhm.
Now, by the way, the only thing the students are going to be also concerned about is like if they sign up for these things, how are they going to prevent theft? But
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anything we can do to prevent theft.
Exactly. There's always a
We
risk.
can educate them on how to lock up your bike the best possible, but we can never prevent it. So, but,
Exactly.
yeah.
And Donovan, just to wrap up the conversation, the last question is, how do you envision the future of bike transportation at Stanford contributing to a more sustainable campus environment?
My vision is that we have little an area set up for people who don't want to pay the price of the bike shop. Again,
Right.
nothing against them having a business, but they got to make a living. But people who want to, a more organic way to fix your bike. You have volunteers fixing your bike. I wish we had an army of bike volunteers set up on a regular basis around campus, so people could, well, first of all, learn how to fix their own bike,
Yes.
use the tools there to fix their own bike, or get help in fixing their bike and low cost parts. That would be very sustainable, so that people don't have to go spend a ton of money to keep their device fixed. And then we would obviously in that provide bikes for free or low cost to people who get their bikes stolen. So that would be a big deal when it comes to bike theft. Um, and then yeah, some way to free up these stuck bikes that are locked and left on campus. If there was a way to do that, then we would free up the space. We would put those bikes to use or recycle them if they're not fixable. But you would have much fewer bikes that are sitting there rusting in the rain.
Exactly.
So if we get them earlier, they're more usable.
Right.
The longer they sit, they become trash.
Exactly.
Because even just replacing a chain costs $50 to a user. So if I got a bike for free, and now just to replace the chain, not to mention everything else that's rusted,
Right.
it's $50. Yeah, so even a free bike is, anywhere from $75 to $150 just to get it running.
Wow.
So that's the problem, is bike repair is expensive. And, again, no, I'm not begrudging these bike shops. They have to make a living.
That's right.
And they do replace all the parts, even if they don't necessarily need to be replaced. Because
Oh.
I don't, if
Yes.
it works, I'm not going to replace it. I'm going to
Exactly.
tune it up. I'm just not going to replace it.
Exactly.
And then they can replace it when it needs it. So yeah, just a more thoughtful, more compassionate bike community that allows people to repair, learn about their bikes, repair their bikes, or have it repaired by a volunteer, so that it's more cost effective, and a place to donate your bike back, and a way to get in touch with people once they've left campus to donate their bikes, and even if, either if we had to cut the locks off or if they give us the key or the code, if there was some way for them to, an easy place to drop off your bike, not at Abrams Court, but like in the middle of campus,
Yes.
so that they could, if I'm sitting there every day, hey, donate your bike, drop it off.
Exactly.
And I'm like, a human is sitting there, boom, I'm taking those bikes and maybe turning them around that day
That's right.
and giving them to a student who needs it for the summer. So I don't know. There's all kinds of ideas, but we need smart Stanford students in using design thinking and using all the environmental learning and the stuff that you're going to learn in your program to create systems that can. It's not impossible. Sadly, I think we're going to need to put a little money behind it. We need to hire people like you to create a sustainable bike program at Stanford. It would start with one full-time staff. We had one full-time staff member. I think we can make a lot of headway. So I'm going to pitch that to them, and then we'll hire you to come back.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet, Donovan. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
It was such a beautiful interview, Donovan. I had a great time chatting with you and just working with you the past year. It was so much fun helping you repair the bike. Before I met you, Donovan, I'll tell you, I had no idea how to repair bikes. I had no idea the different bike. In fact, I just rode my bike, and I would just fill the air, and that's pretty much what I would do with my bike. But
Well, you're welcome in terms of that, and that's another reason why is that when we educate people about how their devices work, they're more invested in them.
exactly.
Right? If you sew a patch on a pair of jeans, you're gonna own those jeans with pride because it has this patch from this place you visited or your hometown or whatever. And when we teach people how to fix their own bikes, they have a pride in that, and they're gonna maintain it better,
Right.
and it doesn't become objectified or devalued. When we just buy something cheap and when it feels disposable, we treat it as disposable.
Exactly.
So as a person who's getting a degree in environmental education, I mean, you understand that the more we educate people about what they're using and how much effort it takes to fix one, they're going to value it more. They're going to take care of it more, and maybe they're going to help somebody else out with their bike also. So.
Very beautifully said, Donovan. Thank you so much for taking the time to
Yes,
to interview
it's an
me,
honor.
Donovan.
It's been an honor to be interviewed, and hopefully, what I've shared is useful to you and your project.
Absolutely, Donovan. This has been so insightful, and I'm just so happy I got to chat with my colleague and friend, Donovan. Thank you so much
You're
for your
welcome.
time.
You're welcome.
I'm so grateful. Thank you.